Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. I'm Frugal Granny and my name's Ali, and you're very welcome here if you've not been here before, and if you're a return viewer, it's lovely to see you. Today we've got coffee and catch-up 7, and I'm doing something quite different on many fronts today. First of all, rather than being downstairs or in my office bedroom, I am actually in my spare room. And the reason for that is that my contractor's got all of the front windows open. There's just been a big kerfuffle with next door who've tried to put some scaffolding up but can't because my scaffolding's in the way. And also, if they try and tie that scaffolding into the brick, they're going to get brick dust all over the wet paintwork on my house. And so I was like 10 minutes into this recording and my contractor just bursts in, with all of this hassle. Right, I'm just going to stop doing what I'm doing and we're just going to have to start all over again in a different location. So I have now told him that I'm going to be sat in my back bedroom and he can just get on out at the front. The scaffolders for next door have gone away because they legally can't put their scaffolding up. So whoever my neighbour's contractor is has made a bit of a boo-boo there. I'm just going to have to talk to her later and make sure she's okay. But really, her contractor should have known they couldn't have put that scaffolding up until my scaffolding's gone. The main catch-up I want to do today is with my annuity application. As you know, I've been trying to apply to get an annuity from my pension pot that goes with my office job, the one I retired from on the 5th of June. Well, the annuity quote pack that I was expecting came through on Tuesday. I'm sorry about that noise in the background. It sounds like Kitty. She's on the bed with me. We've both taken refuge in the back of the house. Anyway, the pack came through on Tuesday and I opened it up and I was really quite surprised with what I've seen. As I mentioned last week, they have sent me a quote from the top of 6 quotes that they will have got from a range of providers, and they've sent me the top one, and it's basically expected that I will apply for that one. So when I spoke to the administrator last week, he said that the probable amount of the monthly annuity would be about £124. I think that's right. Just excuse me as usual, looking at my notes. Yeah, £124. And when I looked at the top page of the quote that I've been sent, it was saying that I'm going to be offered £152 a month. Well, then I looked at the paperwork a little bit more closely and I saw that what I have been offered is an enhanced annuity. Now, effectively, that means that the provider has looked at my personal details form, which includes medical details, and considered my health situation such that they're going to give me an enhanced annuity. And that basically means that they pay you more each month because they're not expecting you to live for as long as if they were going to pay you less over a longer period of time. Anyway, looking at the amount of the pension pot that they've done the estimate on and dividing it by the original sort of estimate, which was 124 a month, and then doing all that maths again with the revised estimate of 152, there is a difference in about 4 years if you take a standard pension payment as about a period of 20 years. So I think with the 124 a month, I would have used my pension pot up in about 22 or 23 years. With the £152 a month annuity payment, my pension pot will be used up in 18 to 19 years. So effectively, the difference between the 23 and the 18 or 19 is how many years they think my medical condition is going to cut off the end of my life. So they think that I'm not going to live for those extra 4 years. Well, their risk management algorithm thinks that I'm not going to live for those extra 4 years. And I was just trying to think, what on earth was it that I put on my form that would make them think that? Because although I have had major surgery, it was preventative surgery. It was not because I actually had cancer. It was a preventative surgery. So technically speaking, on the form, I couldn't tick that I've got cancer. And I had a long discussion with them about that. Although I'm on a watch and wait, etc., 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 I technically haven't got cancer at this point. So it wouldn't have been that has triggered the enhanced annuity. So the only other data that, sorry, I've got a spasm in my broken hand. The only other data that they would have had available would have been my age, my weight and my height. And that leads me to think that they've done a BMI calculation on my height and my weight and my age and have considered that to put me at risk. I'm assuming of heart failure or high blood pressure or all those associated things. And they are probably absolutely right. I am well overweight for my height. And that's been a little bit of a wake-up call for me this week, to be honest with you. And I have actually decided that after 18 months of working silly shifts that cut across traditional meal times, snacking on things that I shouldn't really be snacking on, coming home, very late at night and eating a big meal then, oftentimes. I know it's not a good thing to do. Anyway, I have decided all that has got to stop. And now that I'm not working an office job as well, I've got to try and adjust my eating and my meal scheduling to fit the shifts that I've got, so that I'm eating a sensible caloric intake every day, and then I'm not eating high fat foods and ultra processed foods. So that's another thing that's sort of come onto my radar this week, is that I've really got to start addressing my eating and my health now, because I'm quite happy for them to give me an enhanced annuity, but I'm damned if I'm going to die 4 years sooner than I could, just because I've eaten a pork pie at midnight. So I'm not going to be updating you on my eating and my weight. I just want to do that quietly in the background. But, even after 2, 3 or 4 days of trying to be a lot more conscious about what I'm stuffing into my mouth, quite frankly, let's be blunt about it, I'm feeling a lot better already. So, there's Kitty in the background. Yeah, so that's been a biggie this week. It's been a really big wake-up call. But going back to the whole annuity thing, I've filled in the forms, I've signed them. They do want to talk to my GP and get a report from my GP before they proceed. But I have actually ticked a box to say I want to see that report. I mean, there's no point sticking my head in the sand. If there's a problem, I want to know what it is. I'm very aware that waiting to get a report from my GP will probably slow things down a bit, but hey, things are slow enough as they are already, so another 2 or 3 weeks isn't really going to make much difference to me at this stage. So yeah, the whole annuity thing has moved forward. It has given me a wake-up call about my health and my eating, so I'm trying to deal with that, ask myself what future me would like present me to be doing. So that's been a pretty big thing this week. I'm just trying to think what else has happened this week. I already have 2 annuity payments in place from previous work-based pension plans, and one of those was paid for June this week, because that one comes in on the 21st of the month. The other one comes in on the 28th, so I'm either expecting that tomorrow or possibly even on Monday. So that will be the 2 annuity payments that are already active for June. The other thing that has happened is that I have had my P45 from my office employer, and I've sent that on to my accountant, and he has now done my tax computation for the previous tax year for me, and I'm assuming he will be talking to HMRC about my taxation for the current tax year. I just need to send him my last 3 payslips, the ones for the current tax year, so that he's got accurate figures to talk to them about that. So that's another big thing that's happened. That's a big step forward. But I'll talk about my last office payslip on Monday, because I won't actually get the money in my bank account till Monday, and then I'll do the allocation, and then I'll make a video and we'll talk about where that's gone. And that really is going to be a big line in the sand for me, because that will be the last payment from the office. It will mean I should have enough money to pay my building contractor and all the other things. So Monday is going to be a big deal for me. Right, now the other big deal that has happened this week is YouTube. Quite a lot of related things there. I mean, another reason I'm sort of sat in my back room here is because of comments from 3 viewers, and I want to thank those viewers for those comments, because rather like the annuity quote has given me a bit of a kick up the pants about my eating habits, the comments from these 3 viewers has given me a bit of a kick up the pants about getting my act together with filming and editing. One of the comments was about, can we see your spreadsheets? Well, basically no, because my camera, which is a Samsung 13, I believe, will not switch between front and back camera when I'm filming, and I can't sort of stop, make several small clips and join them together, because I don't have any editing software on my laptop at the moment. So all of the videos you've seen up to now have literally been one-shot videos that I have cut bits out of to make it look like they are clips stuck together, whereas in actual fact they're not, because I can't swap between front and back camera, and I can't pause while I'm filming. So I did a bit of research online, and I realised that if I actually got brave and used the iPad that I won at my office job last summer for being the best staff support worker, then I could download a third-party app that would let me use front and back camera and pause while I'm filming. And that's what I'm speaking to you on now. I was actually brave enough to do it. So this is sort of like a test video, really. And then what I'm going to do is upload this to YouTube and use the cut and trim facility in YouTube to cut and trim that, because although I know the next stage for me will be to download CapCut and start using that editing software, I just thought that front and back camera and pause was enough for 1 week, and let's just get that rock in the jar before we start trying to put another one in as well. So hopefully this third-party app will let me show you a spreadsheet, and I'm going to try and do that in a minute. And the other 2 comments were also about editing, etc., etc. I can't remember specifically what they were at the moment, but the fact I got 3 on one video, I can't remember, it was either the last video or the one before, just made me think I really need to do something about it now. And hey, I am doing something about it, so let's just see what happens there. But the other thing that's happened with YouTube, and I'm really, really happy to say, is that the money for April and May landed in my bank account this week, and that was absolutely fantastic. I think it came through on the 25th or maybe late on the 24th. And let me just have a look on my spreadsheet here. They paid me £377.42. And I've also had come in from Buy Me a Coffee £8.75. So thank you very much to Fianula. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. If I've got it wrong, then I apologise. But thank you so much for the Buy Me a Coffee donation. That's fantastic. And also thank you to the 3 viewers, or it's 4 I think, who have done me super thanks. That won't actually come through until next month's payments, but again, thank you very much. It was Tony and Phyllis, and I can't remember the other 2. I did have them written down, but because I've had to move from my front room to my back room, I've left a lot of my paperwork on my bed, and I'm really sorry, but thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Right, at this point, I am going to swap from front to back camera and try and show you the spreadsheet, and I will talk you through what I have done with the YouTube income that I have been paid this week. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Switch to back camera. Right, here I am holding this over the spreadsheet that I made. This is a sanitized spreadsheet on one of the tabs of my big financial spreadsheet, and I'm sorry if it's jigging about a bit because I still haven't quite figured out the new tripod that I bought for my iPad. Right, so you can see that I had $8.75 from Buy Me a Coffee and $377.42 from my April and May income that was paid in June. Now, we did talk a little bit about tax in a previous video, so the first thing I've done, and it's the first thing any small business should do, and I'm actually now treating this as a small business, because once a hobby starts making you money, it's no longer a hobby, it's a business. And I am putting 30% aside for tax, because that means I will have money to pay tax on account for the coming tax year if HMRC require it. So I paid $263 tax on the Buy Me a Coffee income, and I've put aside $113.23 tax on the YouTube income, and that has gone into a tax sinking fund. And that is going to be sat there earning me interest until HMRC ask for it. Okay, till they ask for payment. Right, and then underneath it, in orange, I have listed the expenses so far for YouTube. I've bought a new tripod for this iPad, and that cost me $18.88. And then also there was the phone tripod I bought from Argos that cost me $9.99. Now, I've not put that in the expense column. I've put that in the paying self column, because effectively I've bought that tripod out of my own money. And although it's down as an expense, I want to just pay myself back for that. So it's a little bit complicated, that line in this month. And then underneath there, paying self into my new buffer sinking fund, I'm paying myself £240 and a penny, because with the $9.99, that was the cost of the phone tripod. That comes to £250. I'm paying myself from my YouTube income this month. Right, my laptop just turned itself off, which is fantastic, but you may just be able to scroll back a bit there and freeze frame and see that after I'd put money aside for tax and paid off expenses and paid myself £250, that I would have I would have £1.43 left, which I'm carrying over and leaving in that fund till next month. And that's the other thing that I've been up to this week, is trying to rearrange my bank accounts to accommodate income from YouTube. And the way that I've actually decided to do that is I've opened a new current account with my bank, and I've nicknamed it the Frugal Granny account. So any money that comes in relation to Frugal Granny via YouTube, that will come into my, what I call my holding account, which is where all my money comes into. All the things that I have paid come into that account. And then the things that are to do with Frugal Granny are going to be moved. I will move them manually into this new current account. In actual fact, I've already moved them manually into the new current account. And that's where they will be. And then from there, that's where I will hold everything for Frugal Granny. And from there, I will pay myself into my buffer fund, and I'm going to talk about the buffer fund in another video, because that was the other comment that somebody made, was they were getting confused about whether I was being paid weekly for things or monthly for things. And I will be quite honest with you, it is confusing. And so I've created this buffer fund to try and rationalise that, but I'm going to talk to you about that in a separate video, because I think that's going to get confusing otherwise. But with the Frugal Granny account, the money from YouTube and Buy Me a Coffee or anything else is going to go into the Frugal Granny account. And then from there, I will pay any expenses, whether that's on my credit card or whatever. I will pay myself, that will go into the buffer fund, and I will put money aside for tax, and that will go into my tax sinking fund, and that will go to HMRC when they ask for it. So at the moment, at the end of June, that bank account, technically speaking, only has £1.43 in it. Really, I suppose what I ought to have done is paid myself less and left a bit more money in there for incidental expenses. But at the moment, I can't really do that, because what I'm trying to do, and I'll talk about this in the buffer fund video, is build up a buffer so that I can pay myself sort of monthly going forward. But that's another story. So the good news is that YouTube has paid me, and that's really going to help me in August, now that I know that the annuity from my office job will not get paid probably until September. I'm not sure beginning or end of at this stage, but it probably won't. I think really that's about all I want to talk to you about in this video, is the update with the office job annuity, the steps forward that I've made with trying to film and edit better. As you saw from the YouTube spreadsheet, that has involved downloading a third-party app, getting to grips with my iPad, and I've bought an iPad tripod that I'm still trying to figure out in terms of front and back camera, but we will get there. Also, in terms of YouTube, I've opened a new bank account. I've had to make a new spreadsheet to track my income and outgoings and my tax. And I've had to start thinking about rationalising a buffer fund. It's all getting a bit complicated, and I was sitting there with a spreadsheet thinking, am I over, not a spreadsheet, a spider diagram for my accounts, thinking, a flow chart, thinking, am I making this more complicated than it needs to be? So I'm not quite sure I've perfected that yet, but that's where I'm going with that. And as I've said, the other thing that's happened this week is I've had my P45, and I know what my payslip will be for my office job, but we'll talk about that on Monday. There's no point putting too much information in one video. I think we've probably got more than enough in here as it is anyway. So I think that's really probably it for the catch up this week. There's actually been an awful lot going on, but I'm really very happy in semi-retirement. I think this is probably about week 3 now. It's taken me this long for me to get myself sort of semi-organised. I've even had time to go and tidy out the wash house, and I think I'll make that into another video because somebody said they wanted to see inside the wash house, and now I can do front and back camera. That might be another thing we can do, is go in there. I've been through one of my freezers in the light of my new eating resolutions, and yeah, I feel as if I'm beginning to get organised now, but it does take time. I must admit, it is so lovely waking up in the morning and knowing that I don't have to fight my way through the rush hour traffic on my bicycle. It really is great. So yeah, anyway, it's lovely to see you again, and now you've seen my wonderful back room. You can see my lovely handheld sewing machine on the linen chest by the window. That's one of my prized possessions there. And I'm going to try now to see if I can get this off my iPad onto YouTube and sit and trim it on my laptop. And so I will see you on Saturday. And I think what we're going to do on Saturday is actually talk about the buffer fund and how I'm going to rationalise stuff that comes in monthly against stuff that comes in for weekly, so that I don't get too confused, and so you don't get too confused either. But yeah, I think that's a biggie actually, and it was not one that I'd really thought about beforehand, but I'm obviously going to have to deal with that. So we'll talk about the buffer fund on Saturday, and then on Monday we'll talk about my final payslip from the office, and then obviously we'll have coffee and catch up 8, and I'm really hoping by then that the main ducks literally will be in a row by then. Yeah, so we've crossed some major milestones this week, and there's going to be another one next week. But anyway, thank you for watching. It's always lovely to see you, and I'll be answering your comments as soon as I can. All right then, well, I'll talk to you again on Saturday. Bye-bye for now.